Hey guys, it's Adrian. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my January wrap-up. Now, before we start off my January wrap-up, let's check in with my January TBR, which is what I usually do in my wrap-up videos. In my January TBR, I had 4 books, 3 of which were actually mentioned in my TBR video, and 1 of which I added with my Christmas book haul video. So, of those 4 books, I read all 4 because I'm just that fantastic. On top of those 4 books, I also listened to an audiobook. Go me! So, let's get started. The first book that I read in the month of January was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. For those of you who don't know, Monster Call is about a little boy named Connor, and Connor's mother is quite ill, and Connor's having trouble with school and with his grandmother. And so Connor is visited by this monster who tells him 3 stories in order to be able to get Connor to tell him a truth about himself that he needs to come to terms with. This was a very beautiful story. Now I have to say, when I finished it, my first instinct was to give it a 3-star rating because I found it kind of slow burning and it wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be. But after thinking about it, I've kind of felt like, though this wasn't my favorite story, it definitely had qualities that I don't see in a lot of books. It had some really deep, meaningful truths in this book. And why does every book have to be fast-paced? And why does every book have to have a happy ending? So even though I kind of felt a little bit hopeless at the end of the book, I still thought it was very beautiful and it definitely pulled at some of my heartstrings. So I ended up giving this a 4 stars. The second book that I finished in the month of January was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. Clockwork Angel follows a whole slew of bantering, sarcastic characters, which is right up my alley. But it starts off by following Tessa, who is brought to London by her brother, only to find out that her brother has been kidnapped and she has been taken by downworlders, which are basically like your typical werewolves and vampires and warlocks and those kind of creatures, because she has some magical power that she's not aware that she has. And she's rescued by shadow hunters, which are angels that fight demons. So it's more complicated than that. It goes through a lot more than that. I don't want to give away too much more, but I expected that this story would be hard to get into, and it really wasn't. I could get into it quite quickly. But when I was going to give this book a rating, I ended up giving it a 3.5. And the reason for that is, even though I loved the writing of the book, I found parts of the book to be kind of slow. And although I like third-person narrations, this one switched a lot, and so it kind of left me confused. Who am I actually reading about and why? And so that was kind of a downside for me. So although I enjoyed this book, and I will definitely be continuing on with the series, it only got a 3.5 stars for me because it could have been a little better. The third book that I finished in the month of January was Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. This is the second book in the Percy Jackson series, and guys, I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan. With that being said, I am 32 years old and I have a very difficult time thinking like a 12-year-old. I don't want to think like a 12-year-old. I didn't much like being a 12-year-old. But I can't appreciate something like this. I do, however, think that a 12-year-old would appreciate this. So while I personally won't be continuing with the series because it's just not my thing, I don't mean to say that it's particularly bad. I just don't like it. I don't like the too fantastical, too bizarre books. I just can't relate to them, so not a big fan. I ended up giving this book a 2.75 stars. The fourth book that I read in the month of January, I actually listened to an audiobook, and that was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Coming off of Percy Jackson and going into Dr. Jekyll and Hyde was like night and day. I had to turn on my big girl brains. So it took me a little while to get into the book, but once I did, I really liked it. It was slow burning, but older books usually are, but I thought the writing was so beautiful, and what I especially loved is that the book ended open-endedly. We don't really know what happens with characters and how they're going to handle Jekyll and Hyde. We just hear about the case and how everything worked its way through the book. So I gave it a 4 stars. I really liked it. It made me happy. It was a good book. The last book that I finished in the month of January was The Rosemead Agar by Renee Audier. This is the second book in the Wrath and the Dawn duology. A Wrath and the Dawn is a retelling of 1001 Nights. It follows a king named Khalid, and Khalid has been murdering his wives at the dawn of every day until he meets Shazi. Shazi is a woman who volunteers to be Khalid's next wife in order to seek revenge for her friend Shiva. And in order to do this, she needs to stay alive, so she tells Khalid stories every night. And she is indeed able to stay her execution. But while she does so, she finds out that there's more to this man Khalid than everybody seems to know about. Why is he killing his wives? What kind of deep dark secret is he hiding? And obviously Shazi and Khalid connect and they fall in love and it follows their romance. This book was really great. In fact, I have a duology review that just came out a couple days ago that I'll link up here that you can go check out if you want to know more information and more of my thoughts. But I gave this book a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was definitely a captivating and very satisfying ending to this duology. Alright guys, that wraps it up for all the books that I've read in the month of January. And what books did you read in the month of January? And have you read any of these? Let me know what you thought. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.